What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 best budget smartphones in kind of mid-range. These phones do not have any punch hole or notch in them. That's what we're going to be focusing on. So first is the Lenovo Z5 Pro. Now this is one you guys probably haven't heard of. Now you can get this overseas for around $230 to $250, and it's a pretty interesting phone. I really like the design on how it pops out. I think it's pretty cool. So you do have a Super AMOLED display on here. It's a 6.39 inch. It is a full 1080p display, 403 for the PPI. Now it does come with Android 9 with the ZUI 10 on top of it. You do have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 710, which is really a mid-range chip, so it's pretty decent for gaming, and should be powerful enough for doing most stuff, along with the Adreno 616. Where this phone kind of falls short is there's no expandable memory. You also have 64 gigs of storage, but you do have 6 gigabytes of RAM. So you do have a dual camera setup, a 16 megapixel and a 24 megapixel, and you also have a pop-up camera, like I said, 16 megapixel and an 8 megapixel. So you do have a dual camera setup on the front, which is very awesome. So you do have the loudspeaker, and they got rid of the headphone jack on here as well. So but you do get NFC on this guy with USB Type-C. You have a 3,350 milliamp battery along with fast charging. Now I really like the design on here. I really like how this pops out. Now you do have the fingerprint scanner on the display as well. So it's a pretty nice looking phone, and I just really like that pop out mechanism. You don't see that. You usually see it just like the little square one. So this is pretty interesting. Alright, so next is the Bold M1. So this is the phone I usually recommend to people on a budget, and if you're even on a mid-range budget, I still recommend just paying lesser money and just going ahead and getting this. This is a awesome phone. You have an AMOLED display, 6.4 inch 1080p display, 403 for the PPI. What I love about this is that you are gonna get Android 10 on this guy, along with the Helio P70 CPU with the Mali G72 GPU. So I've been able to play games on medium to high on this guy, no problem. Now you do have 128 gigabytes of storage along with 4 gigs of RAM, and you can expand that with a micro SD up to 128 gigs. So this is an excellent device for gaming as well, on a budget. Now the cameras on here, they're not super crazy. You have a 16 megapixel and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. I wish they would have put the ultra wide camera on here instead of the depth sensor. I think it's more useful, but the cameras on here are pretty decent. They're not the best, but they are decent in good lighting. So you do have the motorized pop-up camera, 13 megapixels. They keep the headphone jack, which I love. Now this phone does have USB Type-C, of course, and the fingerprint scanner under the display, and it is pretty fast. They did update it, so it does work without really being finicky. So you will get around 6 to 7 hours of battery life on this phone. A 3,500 milliamp battery. But the thing with this phone is you have that 18-watt fast charging, so it charges really fast, but you also get wireless charging, 10-watt wireless charging on a $200 phone. People don't understand how impressive that is. This does have a glass and metal design, so it feels really great, and this is overall one of my favorite phones of the year. Now next is the Nubia X. So this is the most expensive phone on the list, but for a good reason. Now it does have dual displays on here, which is pretty crazy. So coming in at $350. Now like I said, you're gonna have to get this one overseas. So it's got a very interesting design on here. So you have a glass and aluminum frame design on here. It is an IPS LCD, so it's not a Super AMOLED, but it is 1080p, 403 for the PPI. Now the secondary display is actually an OLED display. It is a 5.1 inch display, and that one is 720p, and it's just very cool to be able to switch in between applications, to put one application on the back and then move it to the front. It's just very cool. So you do have the Snapdragon 845 along with the Adreno 630, so you will be able to play most games on high, no problem. So you do not have expandable storage, 64 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM. It's pretty nice. You do have a dual camera setup, 16 megapixel and a 24 megapixel camera. Now for the selfie camera, you actually can use that main camera, so you'll get really good selfies with this guy as well, which is pretty nice. You can actually look at yourself from the back camera, and it's just really cool. Now you've got a pretty decent sized battery, a 3,800 milliamp battery with 18-watt fast charging, no wireless charging, which kind of sucks, but you do have the fingerprint scanner on the side, which is pretty nice. So I really like this phone because it's just a really cool phone in terms of just the overall functionality of being able to switch in between applications. So if you want to pay that, a little bit more premium price. Now next is the Mi 9T for $300. Now I actually used this phone for a while as my daily driver, and I absolutely loved it. Now I used it over the Bolden one mostly because of the cameras. That's where it kind of went up the Bolden one. But let's get into the hardware. So it's a glass and aluminum frame, very nice design, felt really good in the hand, very solid feeling phone. AMOLED display, which is very nice, 6.39 inches, 1080p display, 403 for the PPI. Now you do have Android 9 on top of MIUI 10, which is pretty nice. I really like the customization options you get with MIUI 10. So you have that Snapdragon 730, so you're able to play games on medium to high settings, no problem, along with the Adreno 618 GPU. Now this phone again does not have expandable storage, 64 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM. So where this phone really shines is in the camera department. So you have a 48 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and then 13 megapixel ultra wide, which takes some really good photos, very color accuracy. Even in the nighttime, you're not getting a whole bunch of noise. So this is very dependable, and you can slap Gcam on this, and you even get better photos. So you do have that motorized pop-up camera, and this one has the LED red indicator. So when you get notifications, it'll actually light up red, which I love, and it just looks really cool when it's popping up. That is a 20 megapixel, and it also has great quality as well. You have the headphone jack. The speakers are pretty loud on this guy. You do have NFC, which I love on here as well. The fingerprint scanner is really fast, almost as fast as the OnePlus, but not quite. You do have a 4,000 milliamp battery, which will get you about 8 almost to 9 hours from my test if you're a light user. Fast charging at 18 watts. This phone is just a beast if you're looking for an overall just really solid, I guess mid-ranger kind of budget phone. Now last on the list is the Huawei Y9 Prime. So I really love this phone. I'm still using it right now, currently still reviewing it. It's just been a really good experience with this phone. I love the two-tone design on here. Now it is a plastic phone, it's not aluminum or design or glass, but it does feel really solid. It does not feel super cheap or anything like that. It's got a pretty big display, 6.59 inch display, 1080p, 391 for the PPI, very sharp. Even though it's an IPS, it still looks really good on top of EMUI 9.1. So I really love their UI. It's really great, one of my favorites. You have the Kirin 710F processor, the Mali G51. So it's not gonna give you, it's gonna give you like low to medium with the gaming, but the special thing about this phone is you actually have micro SD support up to 1 terabyte, along with 64 gigs of storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM. So these actually have some really good cameras on it, surprisingly. So you have a 16 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor, and it takes some very solid photos from what I've seen. Very color accurate, very sharp. The pop-up camera works really great as well, 16 megapixels. You do have your headphone jack on here as well. No NFC. The fingerprint scanner is on the back, but it works really fast, so I can't really complain. You do have a 4,000 milliamp battery, which is getting me about a day and a half of battery life, no problem. So if you're a Huawei fan and you really love the skin and you want some solid cameras with a lot of storage, then this is something to look at as well. So thanks for watching. I will catch you guys in the next one.